Let's jump right into the predictor. I feel like we're at Pocono again. The track doesn't look anything like Pocono, but yet the same four names are at the top. Is that right, Professor? Talk to me.
Yeah, I would say you can interchange any of these guys, but Truex, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin. Those are my top three on the predictor. Shine above the rest.
And listen, let's talk. We're going to Richmond, short track. It's slippery as snot. Tires wear out. Interesting. You don't normally talk strategies at the short track. If this one runs green, there's this whole two-stop, one-stop strategies, pit in extra time that we'll cover on television. If we get yellows, it won't matter. But this is a Hendrick Gibbs dominated track as of late. Correct,
Yes.
Professor?
Yes, especially Gibbs, really. I think they won 6 of the last 10 there. Hendricks, you say Hendrick, they really struggled there overall, though. They've only won 2 of the last 28 races there at Richmond, I think.
Really? So
Yeah.
are they just in the picture? Is that why they think they run good?
Well,
just can't
they
seem to be
won
first?
there. They were always in the picture. They won there in the spring. So I think they won 2 of the last 5, but that's the only wins in the last, I think, 28 there.
All right, so it's Truex, Byron, Larson, Hamlin, which I'll be honest, I mean, it's going to be hard to pick a track where those four aren't going to be at the top of the predictor. I mean, these guys are, in my mind, kind of separating themselves this year in general. Larson's probably the most hit or miss of those four. I mean, it's truly a little bit like the stock market. He's up or down. Is that? I mean, right, Professor? Like when he's good, he's really good. Well, that's not true. He's kind of really good all the time. It's just a question of if he gets his really good car to the finish.
Right, but remember, he's won both short track races this year. He won at that doesn't include the All-Star race. He won there as well. And then, so and then he was second in the last short track race last year. So I think Larson I would put him as the favorite of them.
All right, so we're going to star Larson as the favorite of the Tier 1 drivers. Let's go to Tier 2. Small gap, but a definite gap in the predictor. We don't have to get into the numbers and the math, but there's definitely a delineation. Big word. How'd you like that, Professor? I went to school too, Chop. There's a delineation between the next group. Second, Tier 2 drivers. Who you got?
Harvick, Chase Elliott, Christopher Bell, Joey Logano.
Man, so some Fords show up on the screen.
Yep, some Fords on the screen. This is where Harvick's last win came. And he's been top 10 in 9 of the last 10 there. And his average running position has been 9th or better in the last 10 there. So I think he's that I love him right there where he's at.
So when you look at Richmond, for me, one thing I do love about it, you got to have a good car. Don't get me wrong. But with the tire fall off the way it is, man, the driver just has a lot to do with it, right? Like he's going to keep the rear tires on it. He can burn the rear tires off. He can make it go to crap and over. He could kill a car if he wants to. Do we still think when we see Joe Logano down there in 8th, Penske is still a fire-off team, right? Every time I watch them with the short tracks, their short-run speed is just unreal, and then they kind of not as good on the long run?
Right. Yeah, I'd say that's a good analysis from our.
I mean, who was on the pole in the spring?
We had no pole.
Oh, rain.
Yeah.
I have a question, Professor. What do you make of Christopher Bell? Early in the season, crushing it, top 10s. He was 4th there at Richmond early, but lately he's been making mistakes. And, I mean, he was 6th last week, but overall he's kind of fallen off.
Yeah, he hasn't had a top 5 since his win at Bristol Dirt. So I just don't. But you look at Richmond for him, his worst finish in the last 5 races there is 6th.
What I will say about the 20 is that I just feel like he is, I don't know if he's pressing because he sees the speed out of Truex and Hamlin, but like you go to New Hampshire, right? Now, it wasn't him at New Hampshire, it was his pit crew. But it's all in the same, right? You're betting on the 20 car. We use the driver's name, but the whole damn car has to perform. I do have a question, though. You have Chase Elliott, Tier 2. We just had a conversation about Chase Elliott making the playoffs and how you have him Tier 2. How is he Tier 2? And the reason I ask is because, Chop's not wrong. He is definitely.
It's not Chase Elliott this year.
Well, I would say he's not. I don't have him winning, but you look at the last 5 short track races. He's been top 10 in all of those. He's decent at Richmond. And he's run well. He's run decent this year. He just hasn't. He's not winning speed. I think he's scored the most, or he is the best average finish over the last 6 races. His worst finish in the last 6 races is 13th. So I can't get him to win, but I can get him in that 7th, 8th, 9th range.
So that must be why I think he could win anywhere, because if you run close enough to the front, it could cycle your way. So there you go. If you're a Chase Elliott fan or you're looking at him for your daily fantasy or something like this, what the professor's saying is a lot of consistency there. Now, you're probably going to pay a pretty penny in daily fantasy, and you're not going to get great odds in the book because he is Chase Elliott, and everybody loves him. All right, quickly, Tier 3. Oh, boy, a couple more forwards. Blaney, Chastain, Keselowski. Shocking you have Kyle Busch as a Tier 3 guy.
Yeah, that's the one that shocks me the most, because this is like a great track for him. 6 career wins, most of active drivers. He's finished top 10 in 10 of the last 11 there. 16 short track races, wins.
So why is he Tier 3? What's going into the soup that's putting him down there?
So there you go. He struggled in both short track races this year. He was 14th here at Richmond earlier this year. And he struggled, honestly, the last 2 races of the year.
And let's not forget, I had, for some reason, confidence in him in New Hampshire, and he hit everything. He wrecked in practice. He wrecked in qualifying. He wrecked in the race. He went for the triple decker. So I mean, gosh knows, this is going to be a real scary thing. But I believe, do I dare say this is a fade Kyle Busch week?
No way.
No?
I'm scared to fade him anywhere.
That is absolutely true. So we're going to put a little question mark next to fake. But here's why I say this. Because everybody else is going to – I mean, he's still damn – Kyle Busch was 60 – what has he got, 63 wins or something? Like he's going to be super popular everywhere. So if the predictor has him as a Tier 3 and he's up against Tier 1 drivers, that's what we're going to have to look at when we get into the bets.
Let me ask you, so you're afraid to fade Kyle Busch anywhere. What about Larson? I feel like I would fade Larson before I would fade Busch.
Not on
any given week.
I hear what you're saying, because if he doesn't win, he has very few seconds to fifths, right? Like even in Pocono, regardless how he got there, the simple fact is, if you're betting him, I had him in my NASCAR fantasy lineup. I lost 20 spots in one corner, right? Like I'm not blaming him, but the simple fact is those are the results. Brad K, Brad K. If there was going to be a lawn chair, but he ended up finishing okay. Where did he end up at Pocono?
16th, but he was not good all day.
But Brad, he was good at New Hampshire. RFK is – I'm just saying we're down to Tier 3. RFK's right there. Speaking of RFK, Tier 4, Busher, Wallace, Briscoe, Reddick, Almirola, Bowman. Throw a blanket over all of them. I mean, it's just a hot mess down here.
So the one that would surprise some people is Reddick, right?
Well, that's the name I was getting ready to ask you about. That, and I have another guy, but go ahead. Start talking about Reddick.
So, never finished top 10 at Richmond. He only has 2 top 10s and 17 short track starts. And he's never led a lap on a short track.
Say what?
Yeah. You heard
None.
me. 0.
Doesn't make any sense.
So it's interesting. I wonder if it's because –
not even under caution.
So, but here, so here's the thing. When I think of Reddick, I think of low grip, slipping and sliding racetracks, but they're all high speed, right? Like Miami, lights out, right? The guy's unbelievable. Kansas, spectacular. So, is it a finesse? We're gonna go have a conversation with the 45 team and the crew chief and Tyler himself. I'm gonna say, hey man, I'm gonna talk to him this week. That's some good on-air stuff. You're going to have to listen on USA to get the answer. But I'm going to ask him because that's crazy. Because he's driven for a couple different companies. You would think. I was going to ask the same about Alex Bowman, Richmond winner in the past. You got him all the way down in 18th. Now, I know he has no top 5s since his injury. He has his last top 5, no top 10s, excuse me.
Yeah.
Top 10, his last top 10 was in April, early April. So is it just that's why he's here? It's just he's just bleeding points, just not
Yeah.
good.
Because he's decent at Richmond. He's won there. He's been top 10 there. And
Where was he in the spring?
In the spring, he was 8th. After
Well, I'm just
starting on the
saying-
pole.
I'm not saying your predictor's wrong, but this is my point about handicapping the day, right? Is it's impossible to predict everything, but let's just try to see what we're trying to do.